Unmasking the illusion, you're a god in disguise. The shocking truth about your existence. In a world where shadows danced in twilight and whispers floated like leaves in the wind, something extraordinary lurked just beyond the veil of normalcy. It began with a chilling chill that swept through the air, an unshakable feeling that you were more than just a mere human. People in town gazed up at the stars with wide eyes, convinced they held secrets only the bravest could uncover. Unbelievable stories surged through the street, stories of ordinary folks revealing supernatural gifts, like spontaneous healing or one man who could stop time with just a flick of his wrist. They called him the Watcher in hushed tones, and when he appeared, unearthly storms rolled in. Could he be one of the gods walking among us? There was a palpable tension in the air, as if the crowd was holding their breath, waiting for something profound to happen. Rumors swirled around Jack, a quiet man with soulful eyes and a tragic past. Just yesterday, he saved his friend's life after a terrible accident and claimed he felt an electric surge course through him in that moment, a sensation that rocked him to his core. Jack had no idea what he was capable of. What if he was a god in disguise? What if we all were? As doubts crept into their minds, the townsfolk couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something monumental. Chatter echoed through the cafes, a muddle of excitement and fear. "I swear I saw the sun flicker," someone exclaimed, their voice trembling. "And then I felt something change. Like a light switched on inside me." Others nodded vigorously, their disbelief dissolving into wonder. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With curiosity cracking open like an egg, the townspeople started to notice more strange happenings. The clock tower chimed at odd hours, and shadows would fall without a source. Jack felt the whispers get louder, like an electric charge in his bones. Was he destined for something bigger? In those moments, when doubt flickered in the air, a flicker of hope sparked. But hope, much like all things human, can be a double-edged sword. What would happen when the truth came crashing in? Would they embrace their divine selves or fear the very power that could rip them apart? As whispers turned to roars and secrets tangled in the night, one question lingered. Who holds the key to their awakening? What lay ahead would change everything. Jack couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing on the edge of a cliff, teetering between reality and the unknown. The air crackled around him, thick with anticipation, and whispers of power beckoned like sirens in the dark. He could see it in the eyes of his neighbors, confusion mixed with hope, the electric tension of possibility that hung over the town like a storm ready to break. As dusk settled in, crowds gathered in the square, their faces illuminated by flickering lamplights. Jack stood near the front, heart racing. The townsfolk hushed as a tall figure emerged from the shadows, the Watcher. Cloaked in mystery, he exuded an aura that seemed to draw energy from the very ground beneath their feet. Whenever he appeared, reality bent, and the impossible became a heartbeat away. Jack felt an urgency swell inside him, a dormant seed waiting for sunlight. What if we could unlock our truth? Someone shouted, a voice quivering with excitement. The crowd surged forward, every face reflecting a mix of thrill and fear. Do we dare? Another questioned, eyes wide with desperation. The Watcher raised a hand, and silence fell. You think you are gods? That your gifts lie just beneath the surface? His voice was both booming and soft, a symphony of temptation. Then come forward, and let us unveil the power within you. Jack stared, his heart pounding. Was it possible? He glanced at his hands, trembling slightly. Just the day before, after saving his friend from disaster, he felt a rush like lightning coursing through his veins. Could that really have been something more? With every thought, the memories of his childhood flashed before him, moments when uncanny things occurred, instances he had brushed aside. Was it coincidence? Or were those sparks of something divine? Around him, the energy built like a coiling serpent, ready to strike. Together, let us break the chains. The watcher's voice pierced through the crowd, igniting a wildfire of enthusiasm. People began chanting, a cacophony of cries that reverberated through the air. Jack's gut twisted as he felt the power swell in the center of the square, but what was this force? He seized a moment of clarity amidst the chaos. The potential was seductive yet terrifying. What if they unearthed something they couldn't control? Without warning, the sky darkened, clouds spiraling ominously, and a low rumble of thunder echoed. Instantly, the crowd's excitement transformed into panic, faces turning to Jack, searching for answers. And in that split second, everything shifted. Jack felt a surge within him, a potent energy swelling in his chest. It ballooned until it burst out, spiraling through him like a wild firework. Had they unlocked something? Or unleashed a monster? As the electricity flickered in and out of reality, shadows that once danced became grotesque figures, distorted reflections of their fears. Gasps filled the air, confusion reigned, and the chant morphed into cries of anguish. Jack struggled, grappling with the burden of what he may have contributed to. Just then, a piercing scream arose, slicing through the chaos. A woman collapsed, her eyes wide with dread. "No, it's too much," she cried, her voice sharp as glass falling. Then came the silence, heavy and foreboding, as every pair of eyes turned back to Jack. The question hung in the air like a thick fog: was he a god about to reveal transformation or a harbinger of destruction? The weight felt insurmountable, choking him in its intensity. The moment had arrived, and the stakes had never been higher. What lay beneath this awakening? Jack realized the truth was still shrouded in darkness. The path ahead was fraught with dangers, and he was teetering on the edge of a revelation that could destroy all that they held dear. What if our deepest fears were the very keys to our true selves? What if the struggle was just beginning? The horizon darkened, and uncertainty clawed at Jack's mind, whispering promises of chaos. What would he choose? And could he bear the consequences? Jack's breath came in ragged gasps, the silence suffocating. In that moment, the air turned electric, thick with unspoken fears and dizzying uncertainty. He felt the weight of the crowd's gaze, each pair of eyes a question that pierced through his skin. What was he capable of? What had he awakened? From the shadow of the watcher, a low hiss escaped from the darkness, curling in the corners of Jack's mind. "Face it," it whispered, a chilling voice that dripped with dark temptation. "You've already stepped into the abyss. You must decide, be a power that transforms or a nightmare that destroys." The woman who had screamed lay crumpled on the ground, her face pale, eyes sunk deep in disbelief. Other townsfolk rushed to her side, panic igniting a rush of bodies. Jack fought for clarity as he watched them hover around her. The forgotten promise of transformation pulsed in his veins, but with each heartbeat, it felt more like a curse. Shouts broke out. "What is happening?" One neighbor cried, his voice trembling while others shouted for calm. But fear ignited like wildfire, spreading through the throng as shadows cast by lamplights warped into monstrous shapes. An old man, usually so dignified, stumbled backward, grasping at air as if the very reality around him was slipping through his fingers. "Jack!" Someone called, desperation threading through the crowd. It was Sarah, his childhood friend. Her gaze locked onto his, fear mingling with trust. "Make it stop. You can do this." He blinked back the swirling dark, thoughts racing. Was this truly his doing? Suddenly, the sky cracked, a flash of white lightning illuminating the scene. Jack squinted against the brightness, and in that blinding moment, he saw it, the faces twisted not just with fear, but with a dark yearning. They wanted the power, they craved it. And maybe, just maybe, he was their key. "No!" he shouted, the word torn from his throat. "We need to harness it, not let it control us. We can." His voice faltered, overtaken by the cacophony of panic. The shadows grew more real, fingers reaching out, swirling around legs, clawing at sanity. Like a whispering wind, darkness nudged at thoughts he didn't want to acknowledge. Can I truly use this? Will I hurt them? Jack's heart raced, limbs trembling as the energy within him surged once more, asking to be let loose. In terror, he held it close, afraid of the tempest that lay just beneath the surface. As screams echoed, he shot a glance back at the watcher. This enigmatic figure was the key to everything. He stepped forward, both a plunge for clarity and a call to face his demons. What do we do now? The watcher, a towering specter of calm amidst the chaos, descended the steps of his shadowy throne, inching closer with deliberate ease. You must embrace it, Jack. All that you are. The light, the dark, every facet of your being. Only then can you guide the lost. The crowd shifted, all eyes trained on him, breath caught in eager anticipation. As if magnetized, the energy in the air shifted, a palpable charge that touched every nerve in his body. Jack could feel them, his neighbors, bent not just on chaos, but begging him to lead, but a choice lay before him like an unsolvable riddle: surrender to the awakening or flee into the safety of ignorance. Jack! Sarah cried out again, her voice trembling but full of faith. We believe in you. Shivers ran down his spine. What if he made the wrong decision? Or worse, what if this power twisted him into something he never wanted to be? Embrace it. The watcher's voice was a siren call, pulling him in. Jack clenched his fists, the energy in him rising, swirling, and charging the air, but as he inhaled deeply, feeling the swell not just within him but around him, an ominous rumble echoed, shaking the very ground they stood on. The ground cracked, splitting the square like a wound, and in that instant, Jack realized, whatever lay ahead could either mend or shatter their world. What seemed like hope flickered perilously close to madness. Would his choice bring about salvation or destruction? As the storm's fury churned above, Jack was left with one burning question: could he face the real monster growing inside, or would he fall into the darkness festering in his own heart? The ground quaked violently beneath Jack's feet, the earth rumbling like an angry beast awakened from slumber. Cracks snaked outward from the center of the square, drawing gasps and shouts of terror from the crowd. People stumbled and fell, hands reaching out for stability. Bodies collided in a chaotic dance of fear, their frantic movements fueled by a primal instinct to escape. Jack, please. Sarah's voice cut through the cacophony like a lifeline. She stood near the edge of the fracture, eyes wide with distress, urging him to make a choice. You have to do something. He felt the weight of their desperation bearing down on him like a heavy fog. The watcher stood nearby, observing, unmoved by the chaos. Jack's heart raced as uncertainty twisted in his gut. Did he even have the power to change this? To command it? The energy within him crackled, pushing against his skin, demanding release. Jack squeezed his eyes shut, pulling every ounce of willpower he had to center himself. He could feel it, the potential energy waiting to surge forth, but he feared the chaos that might follow. Think. He admonished himself. If I wield this power suddenly, a piercing scream sliced through the tumult. A young girl clutched her knees, weeping in horror as the shadows around her morphed, forming shapes that menaced and darted. Jack's breath caught in his throat. It was as if the shadows were alive, eager to consume the light. Please. Her sobs rang out, drawing the gaze of the crowd toward her. Jack looked from her fragile form to Sarah's steely resolve and then back to the watcher, who stood silently but expectantly. Decision time. With a deep inhale, Jack forced himself to remember the lessons he learned, the tales of those who had wielded great power. They were never easy, they were fraught with consequence. He had read about them, the weight they bore for their choices and the devastation they could cause. But could he be different? A leader instead of a destroyer? Let me guide you. He shouted, feeling words spill from his lips like molten lava. With me, we can redefine what we are capable of. We can bring light to this darkness. The crowd hesitated, still unsure, faces flickering between fear and hope. As Jack held his hands outward, the energy began to shift. It seeped from him like warm light, illuminating the darkness that loomed over them. It felt good, powerful, and he reveled in it, yet a cold sweat formed on his brow. Then he remembered the girl, still trembling. Jack focused. If he could help her, maybe he could help them all. Close your eyes, he instructed, directing his energy toward her. The shadows recoiled as if threatened by the light that surged forth. The ground underfoot vibrated, and within moments, a small orb of pure luminescence floated above his palm, glowing brighter as it drew upon his will. Reach for it, he shouted again. The girl looked up, and as the orb glared back at her with life, she hesitated. Jack's heart pounded. Would she trust him? Would anyone? The sudden change in atmosphere was palpable as more were drawn towards the light. Jack felt their fear begin to lift, replaced by curiosity and the faintest flicker of courage. But then, the shadows writhed and began to merge, forming a towering figure cloaked in darkness. The Watcher had not retreated. Foolish boy. The shadowy voice emanated from the Watcher, deep and resonating. You think you can fight the very essence of fear? You think you can embrace this power without consequence? The orb in Jack's palm flickered as doubt seeped into his heart. Was he indeed foolish? No. Jack yelled, clenching his jaw as he summoned the light with even greater fervor, but the encroaching darkness loomed ever closer, its chilling grip threatening to snuff out the warmth he had ignited in the crowd. He stood on the precipice of possibility. Victory or despair lay in the balance, and an unnerving cold danced across the horizon. As Jack's pulse quickened, he braced himself, ready to challenge the shadows. But he couldn't shake the whisper of a troubling thought: what if embracing this power only unleashed the real darkness woven into his very soul? The storm above raged on, and with every pulse of light, the shadows became more restless, more volatile. Jack had one chance to change everything, but in that moment, a terrifying uncertainty gripped him. Could he truly control what he had awakened, or was he merely a pawn in a game he didn't fully understand? Jack's heart thundered in his chest as the shadows twisted closer, the figure rising with a menacing grace that felt like a tightening noose. The orb shimmered, pulsating with a soft light, but its glow flickered in response to Jack's turmoil. It was a fragile barrier against encroaching doom. Jack! Sarah's voice sliced through the air again, filled with both fear and a rallying desperation. You can't let it take you. He turned to look at her, meeting her fierce gaze. In that moment, he saw her resolve the same spark he'd seen in countless stories he'd devoured. She believed in him. But trust felt like a loaded weapon, and he wrestled with the terrifying weight of it. The shadows swirled, and with each passing second, they seemed to mock him. You really think this light can banish me? The Watcher's voice wrapped around Jack like ice, chilling him to the bone. You're just a child playing with forces beyond your understanding. You have no idea what you're unleashing. A breath hitched in his throat. Was it true? Was he just a fool wrapped in delusions of grandeur? The girl, forgotten for a moment, whimpered softly, the sound like a dagger cracking through his heart. He couldn't let fear conquer him. I'm not afraid, he shouted, forcing the words out with such intensity that it felt like a spell. The orb surged, flickering brighter, pouring warmth into the space around him. Jack instinctively stepped forward, imparting this light toward the girl. It's all right, he called to her. You can do this. She hesitated, but as the shadows crept ever closer, he saw a flicker of determination ignite in her eyes. She reached out toward the orb. Just believe, he urged, willing everything he had into that moment. Then, a gasp erupted from the crowd. The ground shuddered again violently, cracks widening, swallowing the sharp cries of those around them. Panic spread like wildfire. People tore away from the fissures as the dark lunged forward, a slithering mass eager to claim what little light remained. Jack! Focus! Sarah shouted, 2 steps away from him, every inch of her tense with fear. You have to concentrate. The burden of his doubt crashed over him again. What if he failed them all? Images of their terror raged through his mind, the terrified girl, Sarah's pleading gaze. Couldn't he let them down? Couldn't he embrace it? Echoed a voice in the void of his uncertainty. It was a flicker from deep within him, breaking through the panic. The energy felt raw and alive, a current he hadn't realized had been flowing through him the entire time. You are not just a boy. You are the light. With renewed vigor, Jack forced his will towards the orb. It exploded with brilliant intensity, illuminating the square in a blinding flash that cast the shadows into retreat. The air crackled, and Jack staggered back, blinded by the brilliance. The crowd's gasps morphed into shouts of awe and fear. But then, the watcher's laughter echoed, a deep rumble that surged with menace. You can drive me away, but I will always return. You think you've won? As the shadows recoiled, the ground rumbled again, more violently this time, sending further cracks spiraling outward, cleaving a path straight towards the heart of the square. Jack felt his blood run cold. Jack, move! Sarah urged, fear glinting in her eyes as she grasped his arm, dragging him to safety, but Jack's gaze remained fixed on the fissures, darkness pooling beneath them like ink. No, he breathed, something darker coiling within him. How could he stand and fight if the very forces he fought against were entwined with him? In that moment, a terrifying thought struck him. What if the Watcher wasn't he merely the embodiment of darkness? What if the darkness lived in him too? Jack felt the electric pulse of that knowledge sting against his heart, drowning him in uncertainty. He was on the brink, teetering between light and shadow, and as he stumbled back, he realized his true fight had only just begun. A sinister wind circled, gathering strength around him, and then, in the corner of his eye, a shape emerged, familiar yet horrific. Someone or something was watching from the shadows, grinning. Just as suddenly, the grounds beneath him cracked open wider, threatening to swallow him whole. Jack's breath quickened. What now? Did he dare confront the abyss that called to him? Questions flooded his mind. Who was he really becoming? What if the darkness was not just external but something he carried within? As more shadows gathered, looming over him, he took a step back, grappling with a gnawing truth. Was he destined to be their savior, or would he fall into the depths, ensuring the light never rose again? The ground shook violently, reverberating through Jack's bones as shadows quivered around him. Panic gripped his heart, tightening like a vice. He could feel them, swirling tendrils of malice hungry for the light he had momentarily unleashed. Jack, we need to go. Sarah's voice broke through the chaos again, laced with urgency. She tugged at his arm, pulling him back. But he felt rooted to the spot, the whispers of doubt louder than the roar of darkness surrounding them. As he wrenched his gaze from the fissures, he caught sight of the shadowy figure, an indistinct silhouette, yet eerily familiar. In its eyes, he didn't see hatred or anger, he saw an echo of himself. The realization struck him like a lightning bolt. No, Jack murmured, stepping forward against Sarah's pull. It can't be. His mind raced back, remembering fragments of conversations, echoes from his past. The lessons about choices, morality, the ever-thinning line between good and evil. What if that shadow was simply a darker version of him? The crowd surged around them, fear palpable in the air. Someone screamed as another crack split the ground, casting a plume of dust upwards. Heart pounding, Jack closed his eyes, taking a shaky breath. What if I'm becoming him? Jack! Sarah's shout pulled him back into the moment. She was frightened, desperate. The intensity reflected in her eyes ignited a flicker within him. Do you trust me? He asked, still staring at the shadow. Beneath its darkness, there was a faint glimmer, a flicker of light trying to break through. Do you believe I can control this? Always. She shouted fiercely, the urgency laced with conviction. He opened his eyes to the darkness surrounding him, channeling her faith. Then I have to face it. Jack felt the orb thrumming gently in his hands, the warmth spreading anew. He mustered every ounce of belief, every moment Sarah believed in him, and pushed it outward, reinvigorating the light that had once driven the shadows away. "Stay close," Jack shouted as he moved towards the figure, daring the darkness to envelop him. The figure shifted, a hint of recognition now etched across its shadowy features. Jack felt a strange connection, as if something whispered from the depths of his soul. "Jack, wait. You can't." Sarah's voice was frantic, but he couldn't stop now. He was traversing the boundary between fear and acceptance. "Embrace it, Jack. It's part of who you are." The voice echoed, not just from the abyss, but from deep within himself, a raw power he had yet to fully harness. As he lunged forward, the orb flared. The light expanded, merging with the shadow, creating a tempest of swirling energy around them. The crowd gasped, eyes wide with horror and disbelief. Jack felt the delicate thread connecting him to the darkness draw taut, then snap, the rush overwhelming him. The Watcher reappeared, its laughter echoing through the air. "You think you can merge the light and dark? You're a fool. They will consume you." Jack felt the shadows tugging at him, but he pressed onwards, his heart racing. "No. This is my fight." With every ounce of will, he forced the two forces to collide, his light against the dark's insidious nature. A blinding flash erupted, causing the crowd to shield their eyes. When the light dimmed, Jack lay on the ground, gasping, the weight of his exertion almost too much to bear. Around him, whispers of bewilderment filled the air. Shadows flickered like dying embers, retreating against the light he unleashed. But, amidst the confusion, he could feel the weight of something lurking still. Sarah knelt beside him, her hands trembling against his shoulder. "Jack, what happened? Are you okay?" I don't know. I think I touched it." The lingering shadow shifted, revealing a face behind the veil, one he recognized all too well. Jack's breath caught in his throat. "Who are you?" "Your past, your future." "A part of you," the shadow replied with a grin, standing at the edge of the light. "And I will return to claim everything you are." A dread coiled in Jack's gut, a weight that threatened to pull him under. He realized the battle wasn't over, it had only just begun. Jack's eyes locked with Sarah's, confusion and fear reflected in her gaze. He had faced the darkness, but a deeper understanding loomed over him. Could he truly conquer the shadows within him? Or would he become the monster he feared the most? Jack's throat felt dry, his heart a raging storm in his chest as he processed the shadow's words. The realization of its meaning swirled in a disorienting haze. What did it mean to be unclaimed by one's past? Was he merely a collection of moments, a tangled web of choices waiting to be severed? Sarah's voice trembled as if she were speaking to a ghost. "What does it want?" He grasped her hand tightly, grounding himself in the light of her presence. "I don't know, but I can't let it take me." With a sharp inhale, Jack rose to his feet, still gasping for breath, muscles aching from the effort. Around them, the crowd reflected the chaos, eyes darting like frightened animals, searching for safety. They didn't understand, couldn't possibly fathom the battle raging deep within him. Jack turned to face the retreating shadows, his voice louder now, resolute. "You can't have me. I choose who I am." The power from the orb surged through him, igniting an unfamiliar strength, one rooted in defiance. The shadow sneered, its form rippling with malice. "How naive, Jack. You think you can simply will me away? You are already part of this dance, a destiny intertwined with mine." The laughter that followed echoed ominously, bouncing off the walls of Jack's mind. As the words reverberated, Jack felt a pulse within the orb, an unyielding reminder of the light within him. He locked eyes with the shadow, and a fleeting moment of recognition passed between them. It was a mirror reflecting the depths of his fears, the truths he had buried. "You are me," Jack murmured, the pieces of his identity falling into place. "Not quite," the shadow hissed, stepping closer, its form shifting, darkening. "I am what you refuse to accept. The failures, the regrets, the choices unmade. You have potential, Jack, but doubt writes your story. Doubt. The word hung like a noose. Jack swallowed hard, fire igniting in his core. But I can choose differently now. Can you? The world is cruel, Jack. You'll consume yourself trying to fight what's embedded in your soul. The shadow raised an arm, and darkness spiraled from its fingers, wrapping tendrils around Jack's limbs, grasping at his thoughts. Jack! Sarah called out, breaking through the suffocating grip of despair. She moved closer, the light from the orb illuminating her features, a beacon against the shadowy embrace. You can fight it. Please. You're stronger than this. Her words cut through the darkness, and Jack drew strength from her unwavering belief. You're right. He shouted, tugging against the shadow's bindings. I want to let you dictate my fate. He focused on the orb, channeling every shred of hope, every moment Sarah had stood by him. The light expanded, pushing back the darkness, forcing it to retreat. The shadow howled, the sound dissonant, rattling the very air around them. This isn't over, Jack. You'll see. I'll be back for what's mine. Then, in an explosive rush of energy, the shadows shattered like glass, scattering into nothingness. The ground beneath Jack rumbled as echoes of the confrontation faded, leaving him breathless, raw, yet somehow undeniably alive. The crowd, previously paralyzed by fear, erupted into a wave of murmurings, their expressions a cocktail of awe and horror. Jack turned, searching for Sarah, whose eyes were wide, filled with both pride and concern. Did we win? He breathed, trying to steady his heart. For now, she replied, her voice barely a whisper. But what does it mean? And as they stood in the aftermath, Jack realized the battle within was only escalating. What if this was merely the beginning, the surface of a deeper darkness still lurking beyond the threshold? Jack wiped the sweat from his brow, trying to shake off the remnants of dread still clinging to him. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, feeding off the adrenaline of the moment. Eyes darted from him to Sarah and back, as if they were waiting for a cue, some signal that everything was okay again. But he couldn't shake the unease settling in his gut. Jack, we need to get somewhere safe, Sarah urged, pulling gently on his arm. Whatever that thing was, it might not be gone for good. He could hear the panic in her voice, a stark contrast to the warmth that had just bathed him in the light of the orb. You really think it'll come back? I don't know, but it will if we don't figure out what it means to be unclaimed, she said, her eyes searching his. There's more to this than we think. Jack's mind raced. The laughter of the shadow still echoed in his ears. It had played with his fears, but there was something deeper it hinted at. What was it that he refused to accept? Could he become strong enough to confront that truth? Let us go now, he decided, moving through the throng, Sarah close behind him. Each step felt heavy, like the ground itself was reluctant to let him leave. As he stepped out onto the street, the daylight almost stung his eyes. In his mind, shadows danced, teasing him with their chaotic forms. A pop echoed nearby, causing Jack to flinch. He spun around, heart racing, ready for another confrontation. But it was just a street performer breaking a balloon. The laughter of children filled the air, naive and blissful. How could they be so unaware of the darkness that lurked close by? I can't go on like this, Jack murmured. What if it comes back? What if I can't handle it next time? Then we'll handle it together, Sarah reassured him, squeezing his hand. We'll find a way. You can't let doubt win. We can research, figure out what's happening. There has to be something out there, something we can use. Jack nodded, but the nagging fear clawed at his insides. He didn't know where to begin. He was dizzy with emotion, overwhelmed. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught his eye. Off to the side, someone stood watching them, cloaked in a tattered brown coat that seemed to blend with the shadows. A chill crept up Jack's spine as he met the stranger's gaze. Deep eyes stared back at him, sending a ripple of recognition through his bones. Who is that? Sarah asked, her voice barely a whisper, as if even the wind could be an enemy. I don't know, Jack replied, frozen in place. The figure stepped forward, revealing a face shrouded in darkness. There was something unnatural about the way it moved, gracefully shifting like liquid. You all are in over your heads, the figure said, its voice low and chilling. The crowd continued to move around them, oblivious to the impending storm. What do you want? Jack demanded, pulling Sarah closer. Knowledge, the figure replied, a smirk creeping across its shadowy features. And you, Jack, hold the key. More than your past, much more. Jack felt a sense of dread wash over him, laced with excitement. This wasn't just another shadow. It was a harbinger of truths he had been too terrified to face. The orb pulsed at his side, invigorating, electric. Before he could question further, the figure turned, melding back into the crowd. Jack's heart raced as chaos erupted anew among the people. He could hear fragmented shouts, fear, then confusion. Jack, what just happened? Sarah's voice shook him from his thoughts. I think we've just scratched the surface of something huge. The tension coiled tightly in his chest, tinged with a sense of anticipation he couldn't quite name. Was the darker truth waiting right at the edge of his understanding, ready to unearth itself? Jack took a step forward, guided by something he hadn't felt before. We have to follow them, he said, determined. Before they disappear again. As they plunged into the chaos, Jack could barely comprehend where this path would lead them. Yet in the back of his mind, the shadow's laughter echoed, steeping the air thick with an unshakable portent. That awakening the truth might plunge them into darkness they couldn't escape. The crowd surged around them, a writhing mass of confusion peppered with shouts and frantic gestures. Jack tightened his grip on Sarah's hand, feeling the warmth of her skin against the coldness creeping up his spine. Fear pulsed like a living thing between them, a connective thread that urged him to push deeper into the unknown. Where did they go? Sarah breathed, her eyes just as frantic as his. I don't know, but I saw them vanish. Jack's words were swallowed by the commotion, but he pressed on, scanning the faces, searching for that figure in the tattered coat. We can't let them get away. They know something. Amid the chaos, a flash of brown cloth caught his attention. Jack jerked his head toward the alleyway on the opposite side of the street. There. He pointed, heartbeat drumming loudly in his ears. The figure emerged into sight once more, moving quickly, weaving through the crowd with an agile ease that seemed almost unnatural. Come on. Jack pulled Sarah along as they made their way toward the alley, dodging bystanders who were still lost in their own fears. The air thickened with urgency, the kind that begged them to run, to chase, to confront whatever darkness lay ahead. As they entered the alley, the sounds of the city faded, replaced by the ominous silence of twilight. The figure stood at the far end, half illuminated in the dim light, waiting. Jack felt a shiver run down his back as he stepped forward. What do you want with me? He shouted, voice echoing against the brick walls. I want to reveal your true self, the figure replied, voice smooth like silk but sharp enough to cut. You think you are merely Jack. You're so much more. A rush of disbelief surged through Jack. What do you mean? I'm just a kid with unclaimed power, the figure interrupted sharply. You're linked to the realm beyond, and that connection is a beacon. The darker forces are aware, and they will come for you. Jack exchanged confused glances with Sarah, but her eyes shone with determination. What do you know? Who are you? She demanded, her voice firm despite the tension. Name is Zara. It's time you confront what you've buried, the figure said. The laughter of the shadows, Jack it isn't just a game. It's a warning. You must embrace your identity to survive. Jack's heart pounded against his ribs like a caged animal. Confronting what he had buried, the implications felt weighty. What identity? He murmured, dread pooling in his stomach. Zara stepped closer, leaning in as if sharing a secret, the shadows peeling back to reveal a glimmer of purpose in her gaze. You're not just a boy lost in the world. You have powers that should never have lain dormant. Powers that can unravel the very fabric of reality itself. You are a god in disguise. What? That's insane. Jack protested, shaking his head. The thought sent shockwaves through his body. A god? The laughter echoed again, a chilling reminder thrumming at the edges of his psyche. Could it be true? Zara's expression hardened. Doubt will be your undoing. But time is short. If you refuse to act, the shadows will swallow you whole. Before he could respond, the ground trembled beneath them. An ominous rumble thundered through the alley as a crack appeared, splitting the pavement like an awakening beast. Jack stumbled back, eyes wide, fear clawing at him. Shadows spilled forth from the crack, tendrils of darkness snaking out, hungry and relentless. Run! Sarah shouted, hauling Jack back into motion as chaos erupted again. But the shadows crept toward them, curling like smoke, pulsing with malevolence. You must choose. Embrace your truth or be devoured. Zara's voice cut through the panic, sharp and clear. Jack! Sarah's grip tightened. We can't leave them. But as he looked back, torn between the harbinger and his own fears, he felt the pulling, the need to confront everything that made him who he was. The shadows reached for him, and Jack felt the air grow thick, stirring with untamed magic. His heart raced faster than his feet could move. This was where he had to decide: embrace the shadows or flee from the truth. And it was then that he realized what awaited him in the depths was more than darkness, it was a revelation that would change everything. The shadows trembled around Jack, the tension palpable, an unseen force constricting his chest. The crack beneath his feet widened, tendrils reaching out like grasping fingers. He could almost hear their desperate whispers, beckoning him home to a truth he feared accepting. Choose, Jack. Zara's voice resonated through the chaos, urgent and unyielding. You can deny it, but the shadows only want to consume the light. You are that light. Beside him, Sarah's eyes reflected a mix of concern and courage, her grip squeezing tighter with every tremor of the earth. We have to go. Whatever that is, it's too dangerous. But the shadows were more than a threat, they felt intertwined with him, familiar in a way that sent chills skating down his spine. He glanced at the widening gap, darkness pooling beneath, coiling like a serpent. You have power, Jack. More than you know, Zara urged, closing the space between them. Rejecting it will never set you free. You must own your truth if you are to break the cycle. His heart pounded against his ribcage, panic swirling within him. Could he really embrace this? Could he really claim the power that lay dormant? Every childhood fear flashed before him, every moment he hesitated, a shadow of doubt captured in time. Jack! Sarah cried, terror etched in her voice as shadows unfurled closer, their hunger palpable. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of countless lives resting on his shoulders. This was his moment. With a pulse of determination, he shouted, No. You can't take me. The energy inside him ignited like a wildfire. He focused, letting the power swell within. Light surged from his chest, pushing against the encroaching darkness, illuminating the faces of those around him, confusion melting into awe. The shadows recoiled, hissing like a sinister creature caught in the light. I am more than fear. Jack declared, channeling everything he could into that moment. He felt it, an undeniable force threading through him, connecting him with the town, with the past, with the essence of every person standing there, holding on to hope. And then he did something he had never dared before. He embraced the shadows swirling within him, faced the truth he had long evaded. They weren't just enemies, they were pieces of him, aspects he needed to acknowledge, not deny. I'm not afraid of you. He yelled, and as he did, the shadows shivered, and then twisted into something else, something softer. As Jack's orb of light surged forward, it engulfed the shadows, illuminating their grotesque forms, transforming them into wisps of smoke that hung in the air, shimmering faintly. The crowd gasped, witnessing something miraculous. The shadows didn't vanish, they merged, swirling around him, forming a spectral aura that wrapped around his body like a robe. You see. Zara stepped closer, a smile breaking across her face. You're meant to balance light and dark, hope and fear. They are both part of you. The ground ceased its shaking, silence settling over the square. Jack felt different, lighter yet grounded, powerful yet vulnerable. He opened his eyes and faced Sarah, who was wide-eyed, filled with recognition and admiration. Jack! You did it! Her voice trembled with joy and disbelief. Not just me, he replied, heart still racing. All of us. We can find strength in our fears in each other. As the shadows faded, leaving only whispers of their former terror, Jack turned his gaze back to Zara. What now? You said the darkness would return. Zara nodded, the solemnity of her expression creeping back. It will. It always does. The key is knowing you can face it, understanding that you are never alone in the darkness. We can prepare. Jack glanced at the townspeople gathering around, their faces blooming with courage. He felt a surge of unity, an inexplicable thread binding them together. We'll be ready, he promised. No one will face it alone again. The air hummed with renewed vigor, echoes of laughter replacing fear as the town began to breathe freely again. Jack! A voice called from the crowd. It was his friend, Liam, pushing through the throng. You really showed them, man. You made them pay. Jack smiled, a warmth spreading in his chest. Here was normalcy returning. But he knew it was layered over a deeper complexity, a new understanding that shaped him, merged him with the community. He was not just Jack anymore, he was a tapestry of their lives, interwoven with shadows and light. As twilight descended and the stars blinked awake, Jack and Sarah exchanged glances filled with a shared promise. Together, they could confront whatever lay ahead. Shadows might return, but this time, they'd step forward as one. Jack watched the Watcher in the distance, his figure fading back into the twilight. But this time, there was no fear. Just understanding. Let us go home, he said, taking Sarah's hand, ready to face the dawn with all its potential. As they moved forward, Jack knew deep down that the real journey wasn't about power or control. It was about love, connection, and acceptance of everything that made them who they were. A twinkling star flickered above, a silent witness to their decision, the choice to embrace both the light and the shadows they would continue to navigate. A journey rich with meaning had just begun, and as the night bloomed with hope, Jack finally felt alive. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Be a part of the journey. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.